A goofy mask for a simple task. Here's what you got to do to live a more peaceful life. Bippity boppity boo. Just slash them all or hit them with a croquet mallet or two. And when you're done, you'll have fun. Bippity boppity boo. Cinderella's Revenge was directed by Andy Edwards, who's done various horror films in the past. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And also written by Tom Joliffe, who's done some horror films as well, including House of Screaming Glass. Check out my review, House of Screaming Glass. You will certainly be happy that you didn't watch House of Screaming Glass. Yeah, had a neat little idea, had a neat title, and that's all it had. Speaking of neat ideas and neat titles, Cinderella's Revenge. Pretty simple. Cinderella has had enough. She takes revenge. That right there is how you get this movie. At least it's supposed to be a movie. It's marketed as a movie. There are people on film trying to act and trying to do things with a budget that simply seemed like it was about 50 euros. That being said, let's be nice to a film that really has no right to exist beyond the fact that it's taking an iconic character back from the Disney days and even back well before that, before television, radio, or any modern communications were invented. All the way back to, well, the 1600s and early 1700s, when stories were told about Cinderella, Cinderella, the glass slipper, the prince, the evil stepmother, the evil stepsisters, and the fairy godmother that gave her a carriage, and then had her diaphragm turned into a pumpkin. What was the prince's name? Peter something eater. If you remember that joke, I love you guys. So, yeah, characters entering the public domain. You have Winnie the Pooh. Peter Pan's getting a horror movie, apparently. Bambi's getting a horror movie. I saw a mock trailer for that. And also Mickey Mouse. You know, Steamboat Willie got the mouse trap. I reviewed that as well. I have reviewed a lot of goddamn schlock this year. And, yeah, this is no different. I don't even think this is going to enter the top 25 worst films I've seen, but it's totally unnecessary because marketed as a comedy horror, it doesn't have any comedy, it barely has any horror, and it barely can justify its existence, even when the violence starts. Natasha Hestridge is in this, and she still looks incredibly good. She looks really, really good. She's the fairy godmother. Lauren Sturrock plays Cinderella, and then from there we have the evil stepmother, Stephanie Lodge. Beatrice Fletcher plays Josephine, and then Megan Paris plays Rachel. And in case you're wondering why it seems like, you know, I'm just desperately trying to remember these names, I had to take notes for this thing, because this movie is so mind-numbingly stupid that I don't even want to try to retain any of it. So, yeah, Cinderella basically gets treated cruelly. Her father dies in the beginning of the goddamn thing. Sorry, I mean, I don't really care about any spoilers at this point. And she eventually seeks her revenge. Natasha looks incredible. She looks so goddamn good. She's fucking ageless. And she's at least trying to have fun here, but they have contemporary people come in to help, you know, Cinderella become this great, you know, lavish beauty to win the prince over. This also is taking place in about 3 goddamn rooms, and I get it. The film had almost no budget. They were trying to stretch every dollar they could. I get that. The thing is you need to have fun with it, and they didn't have fun, because now it's just like Alice in Terrorland, except that was like Gretel and Hansel next to this. Hansel? Yeah, eventually she takes her revenge with a goofy mask that glows that somehow gives her the excitement to embrace this dark side of her, and then she kills. That's it. That's it. It's on Tubi. If you want to check it out. It's terrible. Let's get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. So, yeah. Her father gets decapitated in the beginning. Hilarious. I don't even think the actors knew the cameras were on most of the time. There was a cool storybook opening with a Charlie XCX knockoff, and I'm sorry if the artist actually is talented. That's who I thought of. With a storybook opening, that actually wasn't too bad. In fact, I think it's probably where a quarter of the budget went. Much like the Winnie the Pooh horror movie. And, yeah, Arthur gets his head cut off so he can no longer be invisible. Catherine is a cruel stepmother, and having Cinderella do chores on her own, she's a cruel stepmother, and she's soon not going to be the only one. So, the comedy doesn't work at all. There are large chunks of this you could zone out. You could actually go make a sandwich from scratch, a pizza from scratch, and not miss shit. At one point, when the fairy godmother comes in, she makes she has the carriage as a Tesla, an orange Tesla. I'm serious. I'm fucking serious. I was like, Okay, that's really stupid. How in the world did you afford a Tesla? She did have Vidal Sassoon and Tom Ford come in, you know, as designer and stylist and everything and stuff like that for people playing them for whatever reason. It would have been hilarious, actually, if they could have gotten the actual people. And we are 35 minutes in and we finally get a little bit of violence because we have the ball stuff. We have Cinderella getting whipped. All this ridiculous stuff's going on by this guy Bennett that's one of the mercenaries that the stepmother hired to kill off the dad and frame him by stealing the king's jewels to get rich, I guess. The fairy godmother says, seek revenge. Put this mask on. It'll excite you and it'll help you. You'll hide your identity. Even though there's only like 5 characters in this, so it's pretty obvious who the fuck it's going to be. So the funniest thing is she's a terrible, terrible revenge seeker. I mean, she gets a couple shots in and gets beat up. I'm not even wanting her to be like an utter badass and a supernatural Michael Myers type person, but seriously? Seriously? It was almost more like Red Riding Hood with the fact she was wearing the mask and the cloak and stuff like that. She eventually snaps Bennett's elbow and stabs him repeatedly and kills him. I mean, to be fair, he was talking about taking her virtue, so yeah, the guy kind of needed to die. Cinderella, eventually does seek revenge on Rachel, one of the sisters, and gouges her eyes out. That was funny. Most of that was omitted for clarity. The eyes were on the pillow. That was actually kind of funny, I admit. Not in a where I'm going to recommend this way, but at least it was funny. The stepmother brings that Hogan Savage guy in, who was banging some woman. I don't know who the hell she was. Whatever. I mean, just interrupt the sex of people in whatever century this was. The funniest thing is there's horse-drawn carriages and all this stuff, yet we have Teslas and everything. And I know I'm not supposed to take movies like this seriously, but when movies like this can't even justify their existence, really? Fucking really? She beats up Josephine, eventually, even though Josephine kind of gets the better of her for a while. And then she takes a shoe and jams it into her skull. Oh yes, and there was an earlier scene where Josephine actually was told by her mother to cut off her toe so she could fit in the shoe. And then her foot was wrapped for most of it. And then she died later with the shoe in the head. So, Hogan Savage eventually ends up getting killed, kind of hilariously. Because he says, I killed your dad, and then he gets hacked up. That's pretty much it, because the godmother fights with her, and then eventually they get outside after the mother has stabbed her. And there was a bulletproof vest involved because Hogan did a shooting just before he died. My fairy godmother came prepared, and that would be fine if any of these characters were worth rooting for. Do you play croquet? She hits her and bashes her face, which she bashes her legs, and then her head with a croquet bat. And the godmother is turned into grape jelly, or the stepmother is turned into grape jelly. The godmother pretends to be an inspector, wiping this whole slate clean. Cinderella marries the prince, and then bangs him at the end. That is literally the end. We just get a sex scene at the end where, oh, she shows all the buttocks and everything, and she slaps the prince around him. Okay. Totally inconsistent, ridiculous, and not good, and doesn't deserve to exist, and it gets an F. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I haven't seen the Winnie the Pooh movie yet, because as of this recording, it's still like 12-some bucks on Amazon, and I refuse to fucking pay for that. I'll catch movies like this on Tubi and then rant about them briefly. Look, I hope everybody had fun. I hope everybody gets to do better projects, but Jesus Christ, this was terrible. 100% terrible. Put this bullshit together and what have you got? Bippity-boppity bullshit. I'm John Ripplin. I'll see you soon.